All right, Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal. I'm doing great. How are things going over in Indiana?
Everything's going pretty good. We last week I fell for the weatherman and I thought we were going to have just some trepidatious tornado weather because he was talking about it was just going to be like pink and red all over and I went to get my kids like midday at the daycare and all that kind of crazy and then nothing happened. So I'd rather have that than a tornado over my house. So we'll carry on until the next time I fall for a weather report. But so we're back today. We're going to talk again event driven podcast. I'm super excited about today's topic, where we will talk about website traffic. And for me, I have been doing SEO probably for about 3 or 4 years, and I still feel new to everything. So it's a topic that I love to talk about. It's a topic that I have tried a bunch of things in and have had some success on websites. But I always feel like the baby in this veteran industry. I talk to people that have done stuff for double digit years, and I feel like I missed the boat a little bit, but it's something I love to talk about and love to play around with. So I'm excited to get started today.
Well, absolutely. And with your company, you've got a venue that you were trying to grow. I think your story means a lot because when we got a lot of people who are big fans of Curate who are I would imagine listening to this show that ask the question of like, hey, maybe I'm just still in the beginning stages of my company and I need to grow. I need to grow my business. I got to find more customers. How can I take something that is moving from being something that I'm just starting with to something that's actually going to that next level? And I know with your venue, there's been some creative ways that you kind of looked at that site traffic as one of those key ways to grow your customers and really get people to find out about you in the first place.
Yeah, so we'll definitely talk about the things that I've done in this specific case to grow traffic, and we'll talk about various things that you can do outside of just your website to bring in traffic. It's really going to depend on your budget, but at the end we'll talk about what the result of that was and how that affected the business and how we thought differently about SEO going forward. But I think from a lot of the customers that we have with Curate, I would say a good portion of them are a one shop local business. Not all of them. Some of them have multiple locations, but and are, wider spread out throughout the country with their locations. However, this can even be something that can be applied to those folks that have a multi-location business. And what I will say is not everybody does SEO the same way.
Right.
And if I can convey anything to folks is it's going to be A, how much time you have, B, how much budget you have. And I'll talk a little bit about this of that you can either buy your way in or you can work your way in. So let's get started. So I am going to just go through this presentation a little bit, and Ryan, feel free to pop in if you have any questions. You're not necessarily on the camera right now, but I can still hear you if you're talking.
The audio only listeners out there.
Right. Hang on just one second.
And when you had to have like a literal tower and everything, you podcasting before it was podcasting, and he would always say on this radio show, he's like, I've got a face made for radio.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. All right. So growing website traffic. So let's talk about this for a second. So what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to go through a personal example of what I've done for a business. We're going to talk a little bit about keyword research. We're going to talk about how you can check where you rank for a specific keyword. We're going to look at just generic Google search results when it comes to a business. I'm going to talk about a business that I'm involved with a little bit, and this is kind of the example for the episode. And then we're going to talk about a few other things all related to SEO. I'm not going to go into each and every one of them. We'll get to that when we get to the slide. So what I will talk about is Sandbox Social. So what is Sandbox Social? Sandbox Social is a family entertainment center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I'm a very small part of an owner's group of Sandbox Social. So they do events in regards, they do bachelor parties, they do birthday parties, they do anniversaries, anything that you can think of when a family's getting together or friends are getting together, all into one group to celebrate. They have a restaurant and bar. They have a pinball arcade. They have a redemption arcade. They have axe throwing and putt-putt. Now, this is all in a mall where they have bought up a lot of the real estate there, and they have some multiple stores, previous stores that are all connected into one. So Terre Haute, Indiana is where it is located, and Terre Haute has a population of about 30,000 people. Now, below you will see a graph of website traffic. And so this is the organic performance of the Sandbox Social website and how the traffic grew. And so around February timeframe is when I came in, and over the path of about 70 days, we saw an increase of 4x of traffic. So the numbers look a little bit low here. I can tell you if you take these numbers times 5, that's the actual traffic. So it went from about 150 visits per day to somewhere around 500 visits per day, which was pretty major. So let's talk about keyword research. You guys hear this a lot about how can I apply certain keywords to my website, and different ways to develop websites do this differently. So not everything is going to be the same. However, in this specific case, I was looking for a keyword in Terre Haute, Indiana that would apply to the business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my web browser here, and I'm going to take a look at this Keywords Explorer. And so in the Keywords Explorer, currently I have a different...
What tool are you using right there?
I'm using a website called Ahrefs, which is just kind of like Google Analytics on steroids. So at the time I was doing research on Terre Haute, and I will zoom in on this a little bit, all I wanted to do for Sandbox Social is I wanted to find a keyword about Terre Haute that would be related to Sandbox Social that I could key in on that specific keyword. Now, there are many tools out there. There is Ahrefs, there is SEMrush. You can use the Google Keyword Planner, which is free. And all of this stuff has similar information. But there was two major things that I wanted to see. One, I found a keyword that was high in search volume. That's this SV number here. So I found a keyword called Terre Haute restaurants that had about 1,000 in volume every month. And this column here that has the numbers, they're both green, orange, and yellow, that is a stat called keyword difficulty. So the lower the keyword difficulty, the better. So I saw this Terre Haute restaurants. It had a keyword difficulty of 2 out of 100. It had decent search volume. So I said, hey, that's the word that I'm going to key on. Now, it's going to be different for each of you guys that, you may have a lot of competition in your region that you may need to create what they call a longer tail keyword, which short tail keywords and longer tail keyword is just the amount of words. A short tail keyword is 2 words, and a long tail keyword is 3 words or more. So you may want to key in on something else, and we'll go into another example about catering here in a few moments. But basically, I saw Terre Haute restaurants. I said, great, I'm going to try to write a web page that has a lot of information about Terre Haute restaurants, but also peppered in there is going to be talking about the different entertainment venues at Sandbox Social. So I'm just going to scroll through real quickly the Sandbox Social website. It talks about gastropub and all of the entertainment venues. And what I will tell you about this website is this is actually the second version of the website. They just recently redid it over the last month. Previously, the website that I did was just one page, and there was a lot of different text about restaurants in Terre Haute, things to do in Terre Haute, as well as the entertainment that they provided. So going back to keyword research. Yeah, go ahead.
that's not the focus of the company. You're asking that bigger question around around how can you create content that helps people to find what you do. So, for example, like for a caterer or for a florist, they might. I have seen some florists who actually, this is a really cool idea that they did, but they created pages for the largest venues in town, and on their website of like, hey, here's the Carmel Room, or here's these places they want to do more events at. So even though it's not about the Carmel Room, even though they don't provide this venue, they're creating content, if I'm hearing what you're saying, that helps people who are searching for weddings at the Carmel Room to see, hey, this is a florist. So when the people who are listening to this, the business owners, the business managers, if they've got a marketing person or a marketing team or somebody a contractor that does a lot of their stuff, they should be asking this question around, not necessarily just like, hey, how do I get more people to buy my services, but how do I help more people find me as a whole, even if maybe that wasn't the initial, reason that they were searching. Is that?
You're understanding that perfectly, and that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later. But even though all of your content may not be in your site menu, you can create whatever page you want to create, and it's all about how Google ranks you and creates trust with your website. Okay, so in your example, it absolutely, if I was a caterer in St. Louis, let's say, and I wanted to be at certain venues, I would absolutely create like a pillar page which has 10 to 20 venues, and I would put the map of my catering location when I'm talking about those other venues. And when people are looking at those venues, my page might come up there high related to their business page as a caterer that serves that venue. So you have whatever those abilities to just create content and focus that way is a great way of thinking. So a couple of items here that I'm pointing out is there is a website called nightwatch.io. Now, in this day and age, there's a software for everything. And if you're not careful, you will max your budget out on software tools that you need to do this, and this because you think you need it. Always be extra careful that you're not duplicating features in different pieces of software that you're doing to evaluate your search engine optimization, or SEO. Nightwatch.io is helpful because you can key in a keyword for your website and see where you rank in Google, and use that as a baseline for as you're trying to increase the content for that specific keyword. It's not 100% necessary. You could just put the keyword in Google and see where you show up. But that's a lot of finding needles in haystacks. So again, nightwatch.io, this is a kind of a where do you stand. You really want to decide what keyword or keywords you are looking to rank for and where you are currently in Google, so that you can increase your search ranking. I apologize, I don't talk a lot, so when I do, I have to drink a lot of water. It is a paid tool, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it's a 14-day free trial. So
Of insights if it's a free trial to just jump in and find out like where does my company currently stand.
Yeah, but if you're harebrained like me, you always forget what trials you signed up for, and then you pay for them, and
That's true.
then you're out
That's
of
true.
money. So another thing that I will say from a technical standpoint is that Google's algorithm is always changing. However, they are the king. So where you rank in Google may not be the same as where you rank on Bing, may not be the same way where you rank on Yahoo. And there's some controversy there, but you always kind of have to, Google comes out with a couple of updates per quarter. So you always have to kind of keep up to date on the things that they are keying in for where your website will rank. All right, so next up, so let's just talk about reviewing a search result. Okay, we've all searched Google thousands of times, enough to know where things are going to show up in a page. And depending on the type of search that you are doing, you may see different results. Excuse me. So let's just take a look really quickly at a web browser. And I am going to look at Google really quickly. And I'm going to search for St. Louis catering. Okay, so if I'm looking at all of the search results for St. Louis catering, and again, I'm going to zoom this in so you guys can see it a little bit better. Usually at the top of all Google search results, you're going to see sponsored results. So getting back to talking about paying your way in or buying your way in, these sponsored ads are buying their way to the top of Google and hoping that people aren't technically savvy enough to know that these are ads, or even if they are ads, they know that it's a business trying to gain your interest so that you will click over to them and forget about the rest of the search results. If you go on beyond that, the next thing that you're going to see when you're doing a business search is you're going to see what they call the Google Map Pack. And again, this is near the top of the page, and this has a lot to do with what they call Google My Business profiles. This is related to someone that is going out, they've got a location on the Google map, they're getting reviews through Google, and they're also keeping that Google profile up to date with kind of like Facebook statuses, but it's not Facebook statuses, it's actually in the Google profile. And there is some science to this, but it is a way for you to get more site traffic or get more business if you are here. So the Google Map Pack only shows about 3 or 4 spots in the Google search results, and then it lets you click more businesses and it'll create more of a list. So if you're not in that top 3, you may be in that more businesses list. But that's a whole other episode where we can talk about how you get business reviews and such.
Well, and I would think that there's this variety of things that people are searching, and I heard one person one time say, hey, go find the search terms you want to rank for and kind of look at all the different ways that Google is showing those. Is it a link? Is there an article about the best caterers in St. Louis? That's like the second, when you're searching for St. Louis caterer, can you get on that list? Can you reach out to that person and say, hey, how do I get on your list, for being one of the best caterers? And this seems like what you're saying right here, this map pack is like that, a place to ask that question of hey, what are people searching? And is this one more place that I can be visible?
Exactly. So beyond that map pack is where the SERPs come in. So SERP, it just stands for search engine result pages. So these are the organic pages, meaning these are the people that are working for it. They're not paying for ads. They've tried to create their page with optimized content so that it gains Google's trust and moves them up in the rankings. And this is probably mostly what we'll be talking about today. But what you mentioned, Ryan, is a concept of what they call backlinks. So it's reaching out to other websites that have related content or have a list of businesses or whatever that are like yours, and you're just trying to gain Google's trust by having other websites link back to you. And that's a very critical piece of search engine optimization, again, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So sometimes the other thing I wanted to mention is that depending on what you're searching for, let's just say you're searching for a random topic, sometimes if there is no map pack, you will see videos from YouTube or wherever on the website. So a lot of times when I'm doing SEO related content, I like to create a summary video based on the blog post, just so in case somebody is looking at that, if I'm further down the search engine results, maybe my preview of my video will show up at the top of Google as well. So that's another way to think about it. All right. So I'm sorry, what now?
And I think a big question that a lot of people who watch this are going to be asking is around like, it feels like there's so many different places and so many different things you could do. In your opinion, like especially with Sandbox Social, and as you're asking about like trying to find a way to drive that event focused side of that business, was there something you did to figure out like, hey, here are the more impactful things to do? Because I feel like anytime I'm on a call like this, I always leave, especially me, and I like marketing. I'm not great at it, but I like it. But at the same time, it's like there's so many new things that I have to learn and do. Like, is how do you know like what's going to be the most impactful um, to really focus on?
Let me tell you, I have been doing website stuff since 1995. And I just started doing SEO stuff in 2017, 2018. And that's because it was this big, scary cloud, and I didn't want to spend a bunch of time trying to figure it out. I just wanted it to be easy. And so I just left it to other people until I got to a point where I was involved in a startup business, and I've got to buckle down and like learn this stuff. And what's really hilarious to me about it is that there is so much stuff out there that I don't understand how they came up with figuring out this is what works. It's like when I'm working with graphic software and I go on some tutorial and they find some feature like 5 or 6 levels deep, and they change like one setting that makes your design just super awesome. And I'm like, who sat there and figured that, who figured that out? It's the same way when I talk to SEO with people who don't have a lot of experience with SEO. It's like I'm talking a whole other language. And so it's like it is like its own language. You've got to be immersed in it. And no matter how ridiculous the features that they're talking about or the things that you've got to do, you just got to you got to try them and see if they work for you. But it can be just like this ridiculous mess of buzzwords and that kind of stuff sometimes. But you just got to trust the process and hope for the best. So yeah, what else did I want to say here really quickly?
Yeah, I think we're onto the sandbox. So you were getting more into the, what it is and kind of like the.
Yeah. So just again talking about Sandbox Social, did keyword research and what was the highest volume keyword related to Terre Haute, and so we keyed on Terre Haute restaurants. So with your website, there's some very simple page edits that you can do that will affect your rankings in Google. And there's a website out here that I'm going to go to. It is called SEOscan.org. It is a free tool. Anybody can go to it, and it will pull out some of the most important information that your website needs. And so again, I'm going to zoom on this so you guys can see this information. Excuse me. So I am scanning for a website that is a St. Louis caterer called Russo's Gourmet. And you will see here in the SEO scan results that there are some website pieces of HTML that Google really keys on. One of them being the information that is in your browser tab or the title tag in the HTML. One being the meta description, which is a setting kind of behind the scenes of a web page. And one being an H1 header tag. An H1 header tag is like the biggest text you can create in HTML. But Google looks at those three things as some of the most important information on a web page. So, and there's kind of a science to this. So you can put in your own website, you can look at the good things and bad things that SEO Scan will tell you is on your website, but there is a specific formula that I worked with an SEO company to learn kind of their methods. And what they say is for your title tag that your format needs to go in a format that Google knows where you are, Google knows what you do, and then Google knows what your brand is. So an example of this is that if I was doing some SEO work for Russo's Gourmet, the first thing that I would do is change their title tag to not to say St. Louis Catering, Russo's Catering. And so they know where I am. I'm in St. Louis. They know what I do. I'm catering. They know what my brand is, Russo's Catering. And I would break that up with dashes, but I would also add that into an H1 tag somewhere on the website, because those are the two most important things that Google are looking at. So these are things that you can do without spending any money, marketing team or IT team to do it or whatever. But you will see some movement just by doing those little things. Business directories, yeah.
So that's as simple as just adjusting in that what did you call that thing again? That specific spot?
The title, the HTML title tag, it's what shows up in the tab of your browser. But it's a little bit behind the scenes depending on what website creator you use.
Cool. And that makes sense. And so most, like, if let's say you have a Wix site or a Squarespace site, is that just available like in the settings section of it?
Yes, absolutely. Usually when you create a page, there's usually settings that you can set that stuff so you don't have to go into the code and do it in WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or whatever it is. It is what they call what you see is what you get. You have that ability to
right, the WYSIWYG thing.
The WYSIWYG, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about business directories. So there are hundreds of websites out there where people can search for a business. And it's very critical that your information shows up the same across these business directories. And so it's, something that you can outsource and have done, things like Google Maps, Yelp, Yext, social media, Travelocity, those are some of the main ones. But like I said, there's hundreds of things out there. And so there are services where you can post your address, your phone number, your business name, and they will submit them to all of the business directories for you. There's also, I mentioned SEMrush earlier. That's another kind of Google Analytics type website and platform. They have a listing management functionality, and I'm sure that other people do as well. But you can use that as well, as so that you're not having to go and submit those yourself. Again, and if that information changes, you may need to go back to that website and resubmit.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Let's see. The next thing is local relevance. So this is kind of what you're talking about with backlinks, Ryan.
Right.
How can you talk to other businesses? How can you talk to websites that feature things going on in your city? How can you talk to mom bloggers that are taking their kids to go places? How can you find, major websites that have a list of the top 12 florists in Punxsutawney that, you want to be part of that list? Sometimes you have to pay for that stuff. Sometimes that's how websites make their money. But if it is an important enough website and you're on that, then that's going to grow your website traffic. You want to get on Yelp. You want to get on Google. You want to reach out to your customers and say, hey, help us out with a 5-minute Google review. You want to reach out to social media groups. Depending on how large the group is or its niche, sometimes you can pay to have, a post to your website pinned at the top of that group. There's a thing called Help a Reporter Out, which is also HARO or HARO is more likely known. But let's say they're looking for, catering content and they want to know something specific about catering that you may be an expert on, or florist or event planner, etc. You can reach out, provide a comment to help that reporter finish an article, and they will create a link that goes back to your website. If go ahead.
To ask you a question about that, because we did this is a couple of years ago since Brian O'Neill has messed with this, but this could be content anywhere. This don't have to be like someone that is local to your city. It could just be a general article it could be a big publication, could be a small publication, but it's just a place that somebody's writing about something that you're an expert on.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
And I will say that this is probably the toughest task out there, is spending that time trying to get people to respond to you and negotiate getting a link. There are companies out there that specialize in backlinks. I would just be a little bit cautious and make sure that the company is trustworthy, because if you get in with the wrong company and they give you crap links, or excuse my language, but if they give you bad links, that could be detrimental versus helping grow your traffic. But this kind of it goes back to how do I get links to my website.
Okay, that makes sense.
But you can create your own content too, which is the last bullet point, which is, again, if I'm a florist and I want to talk about the best wedding venues in Cincinnati, and have it on my website, then when people search for that venue, then your content may be up there high in Google, right beside the business.
Right.
So a press release. This is where it gets into, you need to spend a little bit of money to do this if you're not savvy about getting press releases or know someone. However, it is a valuable tool to get high quality backlinks and getting more Google trust. When you submit a press release and when you get it on something like Yahoo or for Reuters, let's say, it has to be something pretty substantial. There are companies that will just post press releases for just anything that you want to do as long as you're paying for it. But there's a chance that will get picked up by media outlets, whether local, regional, national. And then other websites are going to pick up on that news story. They're going to create links to your website. And again, it's growing that Google trust. So if it's something very important, a very important announcement to get out, this may be a way you want to do that. But yeah, that's where the budget starts to increase a little bit on doing some of these things. So SEO optimization. So again, this is a whole other episode. We're already kind of going long today, but this is a whole other episode, and I just will pepper in my questions here of, are you adding the right related keywords to your overall topic? Do your pages have enough text content versus the top 10 search results for that keyword? Do you have images in your post? Do you have links on your page or post that are linking to other internal pages of your website and externally to other sites or articles or blog posts? Have you submitted the page to Google Search Console, which usually will get you indexed in the rankings quicker? And there are other tools out there. There's a whole controversy on utilizing AI content or not utilizing it. And my opinion is, I use it, but I use it more of a getting out of the blank white page a lot of times. How can I create an outline of what I want to talk about, let AI write it, and then make sure I'm looking at it to make sure that the research or the content is accurate. It doesn't sound like it came directly from artificial intelligence, but there's a few tools here and there of hundreds out there, but RankIQ is not necessarily artificial intelligence. It does, help create a blog post for the keywords that you should be including in your content, and helps you to create an outline, but you're writing it yourself. There's, of course, ChatGPT, and there's Surfer SEO, and there's Content at Scale, and just a lot of tools that will help you shorten the timeline. If you're doing a lot of things as a business owner and you don't have time to write a blog post, this will kind of get you there in a faster mode.
That makes sense.
So I again, I could talk about this stuff for hours, but I want to talk about the results that we saw and what we did to grow the site traffic. And so talking about the simple site edits, again, we focused on Terre Haute restaurant. We focused on Terre Haute as the region and the city, restaurant as the keyword, Terre Haute restaurant, and then Sandbox Social. We made sure to put that in the title. We made sure to put it in the meta description. We made sure to put that in the H1 tag. We optimized a page, again, focused on Terre Haute Restaurant. I think the word count was something like 1,500 to 2,000, so nothing ridiculous. We talked a lot about the restaurant, what fare was at the restaurant, that it did events, if they wanted to book, and then all the entertainment that was connected to the restaurant. We also created a press release. At this time, we hadn't done anything about the grand opening of Sandbox Social, so we created a press release around the grand opening. We had the mayor come out, and so that got not only high-quality backlinks, but it also got some news footage. There isn't a whole lot going on in Terre Haute, so anytime they have a story or a new business that opens, they cover it in their news. We created a Google Business Profile, and we really focused for a while on trying to get reviews. We were not in the map pack when it came to Terre Haute Restaurant, but when we started doing the Google reviews and the method that we did, which again I'm not going to cover, but we went from 0 to 75 Google reviews within a couple of months, which really helped, again, our Google trust. We outsourced some backlinks, getting some local websites to link back to our business. And then we did, obviously, like a lot of people do, we developed social media accounts and provided site links back to the website. So I think the last thing I just want to say is that this is not an immediate fix to website traffic. You're going to have to be patient. So I tracked 70 days from when we started to the highest that we got in the search results. So from 70 days on the website, having nothing, to being SEO optimized and getting some web traffic, we went from not being ranked for Terre Haute Restaurant to being number 6 on Google, which a pretty big deal because we're ranking above, institutions in Terre Haute that have been open for 25 to 30 years. We increased our traffic, again, I believe, from around 150 to something like 500, 600 visits a day. Again, nothing insane, but in that small of a population, it was definitely a bump. And the biggest thing is we went from $5,000 in business per week to double digits, over $10,000 in business a week in 70 days just by doing a lot of SEO optimization.
Wow.
So again, it takes experiments, it takes time, but if your budget is low and you're not willing to pay your way in to find instant traffic results, these are the things, just the starting points that you need to do to grow the business.
That's great. And I think that I love this last slide because it's like just giving a quick outline of the actions that you all did and the impact that it made, because there's a million things you can do in this, but in the end you just have to choose a couple different directions. If it's worth it for kind of the growth goals of your company, it sounds like it might be worth it to invest in this and to pay somebody who's an expert to be able to come in, but at the same time there's a question around like, what's the right move for the person who's watching this? And I imagine for every company, it's going to be a little bit different based on their skill sets, based on their budget, based on how much time they have to do this. But anybody can do a lot of the things that we listed in here. You don't have to be an expert to be a reference on an article, right? That someone's talking about flowers or venues. So I love this. This is great. We really appreciate you, Jason, sharing the expertise that you have around this and really growing the local small business the way that you have.
Yeah, when you're searching for information on this, search for the term local SEO, and you'll find all kinds of education around that. Because I would say that's the majority of our clients that we deal with Curate. They're a business in one geographic area. Some information that I will tell you that I followed when I started out wanting to specifically learn about SEO was I followed a blog called Adam Onfroy, ADAMENFROY.com. And he was just, a person who had worked for an SEO company. He wanted to see if he could build his salary just doing SEO. And so he
Hmm.
provides a lot of. I did a membership with a website called Rank Daddy, which is a cheesy name, but their their business was set around helping people learn about local SEO. And so this has been my own personal enrichment money that I have done so that I can learn these skills, and I've applied them probably to 5 to 10 websites and have seen increase in traffic rankings. One thing that I will also mention is that there is a website on this slide that says tinyurl.com/curate site traffic. And that link will take you to this presentation that we went through that has some web links and such on different slides that I've talked about. And I think the other thing that I would like to mention is that I'm more than happy to provide some ideas or thoughts if any of our clients are watching this, or anybody that's interested in SEO, wants just an outline of maybe what they should do and maybe some links of where to go. I'm happy to provide that. You can send an email to marketing@curate.co or curate.co, marketing@curate.co, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Awesome. This is great. I'm super excited about it. And truth be told, like as you're getting these opportunities coming in from your website, we want to make sure that we're supporting you as you're looking to grow your business and be more confident in kind of what you're presenting these leads and making sure that they're having the experience you want them to have.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, a great episode today, Ryan. Thanks for letting me present something that I'm super interested in, and to me, being a data nerd, like this is my video game. I always kind of say like business emails is one of my video games, but also like figuring out what this week's Google SEO will throw at me, making that I've got to change things up. So I appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.